I found this tape a few years ago when I was at a old vehicle dealer shop. It was hidden in the passenger seat compartment of a random truck. I don't know who recorded this, but I'm beginning to think I made a mistake being nosy. It seems like it's a tape recording of a highway trucker. I'll do my best to sound like one.
I've been driving rigs for almost 15 years now. Nights blur into mornings, highways stretch like veins across the country, and the only real company I keep is the rumble of the engine and the flicker of headlights in the mirrors. It's quiet work. Too quiet sometimes. You start to hear things, or maybe just start noticing the silence itself, pressing against the cab like a weight. This trip was supposed to be routine. A haul from Dallas up through Oklahoma, cutting across state lines, then east to Memphis. I'd driven the route a dozen times before, but that night, everything felt heavier. I hadn't slept much, 3 hours in some truck stop lot where the lights flickered and buzzed. When I climbed back into the cab, my reflection in the windshield looked unfamiliar. Pale, eyes ringed dark. A man running on fumes. The first hours were fine. Miles of asphalt, faint glow of distant towns. But around midnight, the highway emptied out completely. Not just quiet, dead. No cars in front, no headlights behind, just me, the truck, and the long stretch of blacktop. I turned on the radio to keep awake, but all I got was static and faint voices drifting in and out, too garbled to make sense of. I shut it off. The silence was worse. I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting to see someone there. Sometimes I thought I did, just a brief shimmer of headlights way back, but whenever I blinked, they were gone. I leaned forward, gripping the wheel tighter. Fatigue plays tricks, I told myself. But then I saw it. Up ahead, on the shoulder, stood a child. Small, motionless, facing the road. Her white dress seemed to catch the high beams, but her face was shadowed. I slowed, blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, but she didn't move. Didn't even flinch as my truck thundered past. For a moment, I thought I caught her reflection in the side mirror. Still standing there, still watching. I should have stopped. I should have turned back, but my foot pressed the gas harder, and the night swallowed her behind me. And then, 5 miles later, she was there again. The thing about long-haul nights is that your mind starts playing games. Sleep deprivation gnaws at your thoughts, and every shadow seems to twitch just beyond your vision. I kept telling myself what I saw back there was a trick, exhaust, reflections, fatigue, but the image of that girl, standing there on the shoulder, refused to leave me. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time stretches weird out here. The highway was empty, except for the occasional flicker of a broken streetlight that barely lit the lanes. My hands ached from gripping the wheel. My eyes stung, but I couldn't sleep, not with that image burned into my retinas. Then I started noticing other things. Movement in the mirrors, just at the edges. Glimpses of something that shouldn't be there. A figure leaning out from the darkness, vanishing when I turned my head. Once, I swear, I saw the child's reflection sitting in the passenger seat, staring at me, lips moving like she was whispering. But the seat was empty. I tried to shake it off, flicked the headlights between high and low beams, adjusted the mirrors, tapped the radio, anything to distract myself. But the shadows kept coming. They seemed to follow me, slipping along the lines of the road, growing longer and darker with every mile. At one rest stop, I pulled over to take a breather, leaned against the cab, and lit a cigarette. The lot was deserted, but in the reflection of the truck's side window, I saw footprints forming in the gravel, walking towards me, step by step. I spun around. Nothing. The gravel was untouched. By the time I climbed back in, my pulse was racing. My reflection in the windshield no longer looked like me. Eyes too wide, pale skin, mouth tight with tension. I stared at it for a long second, then shook my head and tried to focus on the road. That's when the headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. A truck, distant, following, steady, slow, but no one passed me. No horn, no taillights flickering, just a presence, inching closer with the inevitability of a predator. And then I realized, no matter how fast I drove, it never got further away.
By the time I hit the next stretch of highway, the weight of exhaustion was unbearable. My eyelids felt glued shut, muscles trembling from the monotony of the road. I knew I should have pulled over somewhere, anywhere, but the thought of stopping filled me with a creeping dread. Something told me that if I stopped, it wouldn't just be the highway I'd be alone with. The night air had grown colder, the kind that seeps through the cab even with the heater on full blast. The headlights bounced off the reflective mile markers, one after another, and I noticed something impossible. The numbers weren't changing as fast as they should be. Mile after mile, 112, 112, 112. My stomach churned. Time wasn't moving. I glanced in the mirrors again. The shadows were closer now, flickering just at the edges. And then I saw her again. The girl. She stood at the exact same mile marker, staring directly at me. But this time, her eyes, they weren't human. Empty, black voids, reflecting the dim highway lights. I swerved, almost hitting the guardrail. My hands shook. I tried to breathe, tried to rationalize. Maybe this was sleep deprivation. Maybe I'd passed out and was dreaming while driving. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a dream. Then the radio clicked on by itself. Low static at first, then whispers, names. My name,
Road trip.
Joshua. The voice hissed. I slammed the dial off. Nothing. The cab was silent again. My pulse pounded in my ears, my vision blurred. I considered calling the police, but the cell signal had dropped miles ago. And then the truck behind me honked. Not a normal honk. Long, drawn out, warped, like it was coming from a broken speaker inside my skull rather than the highway. I slammed my foot to the gas, trying to escape it, but the vehicle in the mirror stayed the same distance behind me. I blinked. It wasn't a truck anymore. It was her, the girl, standing on the asphalt as though she was walking beside the cab, matching my speed, keeping pace. I could see the empty voids of her eyes, and for the first time, she smiled. I jerked the wheel. The tires screeched, and then I saw something even worse. A figure in my passenger seat. Another shadow, taller this time, reaching its hand toward me. And just like that, the highway went completely dark.
When my eyes adjusted, I realized I hadn't crashed. The truck was still on the road, or what I thought was the road. Thick fog had rolled in, so dense I could barely see 10 feet ahead. The headlights barely cut through it, casting a weak, sickly glow on the asphalt.
I could hear the engine trembling beneath me, more from tension than from mechanics. The mirrors were useless now. Shadows slithered at the edge of my vision, always disappearing when I turned my head. The girl was gone. At least I thought she was, but I felt her. The sense of being watched crawled across my skin, a prickling, persistent dread. The mile markers had vanished. Every line on the road blurred, melted into the fog. My mind, already frayed from exhaustion, started replaying images. The footprints at the rest stop, the reflection in the side window, the passenger seat shadow. They were all too real, too vivid to be tricks of the mind. Then I saw it. Another truck in the distance. Dim headlights cutting through the fog. Relief hit me at first, until I realized it wasn't moving. Or maybe it was, but it moved in a wrong rhythm. Every time I blinked, it appeared closer. And behind it, through the fog, more figures emerged. People? No. Faces obscured, bodies twisted in impossible ways, standing in the middle of the highway. I pressed the horn, screamed, anything to warn them. But the sound was muffled, swallowed by the fog. My hands gripped the wheels so tight they were white. I wanted to stop, to get out, to run. But the cab felt alive, pressing me back into the seat. Something in the fog was controlling it, or maybe controlling me. And then, faintly, the radio whispered again. A single distorted phrase, looping. Don't stop. Don't sleep. I slammed my foot to the gas. I drove faster than I had in years, but the fog thickened. I could barely see the hood of the truck. Then headlights appeared behind me. Not just one. Dozens. And I knew with a sinking certainty that the girl was somewhere in that mass of light, waiting. I tried to turn off the highway, any exit, but the signs weren't real. They twisted and shimmered, letters bleeding like ink in water. Every turn I took led me back to the same foggy stretch. And then I saw her again. Closer than ever. Standing in the middle of the road, her empty eyes reflecting the headlights, smiling. And this time she was holding something.
The thing she held was small, black, and humming. At first I thought it was a radio, but the sound it made wasn't static. It was my own heartbeat, distorted and amplified, echoing in the cab. I slammed on the brakes. Nothing. The truck didn't slow. The wheel felt like it was frozen in my hands. The fog was alive now, swirling around the cab, pressing against the windows, filling the mirrors with shadows that weren't reflections. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The girl didn't move, but somehow she was closer, hovering at the edge of my vision, just beyond the headlights. And then I saw them, all the figures. The shadows, the things I had glimpsed on the road, in mirrors, in reflections, emerging from the fog, lining the highway. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Their faces blank, their eyes hollow, all staring at me. I slammed a horn again, screamed into the steering wheel, but it was like the sound dissolved before it reached them. I felt my eyelids droop. I couldn't fight it. Sleep clawed at me, heavier than any exhaustion I had ever known. My body sagged in the seat, my vision swimming, and I realized the highway wasn't going to end. The fog wasn't going to lift, and the figures weren't going to let me go. Somewhere in the distance, a mile marker appeared. I blinked. 112. I blinked again. 112. It never changed. And then I understood. The highway wasn't moving forward. I wasn't moving forward. I was trapped in the same stretch of road, the same mile marker, in a loop I could never escape. The girl raised the black object higher. A pulse of light shot into the cab, and suddenly the engine roared like it was alive. I felt my skull split with the vibration, the radio whispering my name, the fog pressing through my ears. And then, darkness. I woke up hours later, or was it days, sitting on the shoulder of the same road, the cab silent, the fog gone. The mirrors reflected only me. The highway was empty, but when I checked the mile marker, it read 112. And somewhere, far behind me, I heard the faintest sound of a horn.